Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Friday Night Live, episode 29. We are getting further on into this season, and it's getting better and better and better. I'm Dave Morrissey here, broadcasting from Limerick, the usual spot in the sunroom, and glad to have you all with me tonight. I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. I'm looking forward to the guests and all the conversation. It's going to be an interesting one tonight. I have a good friend of mine coming on tonight, Mr. Kevin Byrne, who some of you will know from KMFL Radio, who are an online station on Facebook, doing Facebook Lives and broadcasting, just as I do here as well. So kind of like a sister station to us here, and we do a lot of similar stuff and get on really well. But he's launching a new show in the morning called Anything Goes, and we're going to talk all about that and, of course, other things that he does. That's going to be Kevin. And then our Poetry Corner guest tonight is Siobhan Potter, who's based here in Limerick, Limerick City, not too far away from where I am here in Limerick as well. But first, without further ado, my very first guest tonight on Friday Night Live is a man who I have major respect for, and one of the most well-known musicians on the Irish music scene as a guitar player, as a lead guitarist and a songwriter, composer, producer, all those kind of things. He is, of course, none other than Jimmy Smith. And if you are anybody who's anybody in the music scene in this country, you will have heard of Jimmy Smith. He tours a lot with Mary Coughlan as her guitar player. He also plays with the RT Orchestra and the Ulster Orchestra. So he's well known from that work as well. But he is also the man who could have been in Thin Lizzy if he wanted, but he decided not to. And we're going to talk about that as well, which is quite a cool story. He's also recorded with Shaka Khan, Lisa Stansfield, Curtis Stigers, Roger Daltrey, Van Morrison, and Reba McEntire. And that's just a few names to add to his list. So Jimmy is very, very, very well known on the scene, and we're going to have a lot of cool stuff to talk about. Before I get into that and get chatting and play a little bit of music by Jimmy, I just want to give a quick rundown on the little link that's going across the bottom of the screen. As you can see, it's a PayPal link. There's no pressure. There is no onus on anybody to contribute, but it's for any contributions you want to make to Friday Night Live to keep the show on the road. It's for the equipment, the backdrops, all that kind of stuff. So there it is on the bottom of your screens if you want to help out. Much appreciated. So episode 29, and moving on all the time. I'm really looking forward to tonight, I have to say, lads. First and foremostly, I'm going to play a little something by Jimmy called My Prayer. And I think it's by the Platters. It's an old song, but he's playing this instrumentally on the Gibson, on his classic Gibson Les Paul. And I just picked this video up because I love the way he plays it, and I love his technique, everything. So I'm going to give you a little bit of this first. So this is Jimmy Smith playing My Prayer, and it is just super, super duper. So let's have a look at this. Friday Night Live. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Jimmy Smith, the one and only. My Prayer. I love that song. I must say, I love that song. Jimmy is here somewhere. Just got to give him a minute. I know he's on his way. I know he's on his way. These things happen, lads. These things happen. I had him in sound check earlier on. I'm just going to check and see if he's all right. He's out there somewhere in the ether. I know he is. But meantime, we can go for some more music anyway. If we don't get him in a few minutes. Just to let you know as well, yeah. So we're building up on Friday Night Live to the next couple of 9 shows up to New Year's Eve, and New Year's Eve could possibly be the end of this era of Friday Night Live, as you know it. Just to let you all know. So we're kind of building up to that. Yes, it is John. Lovely bit of Fly vibe. Jimmy's a fantastic player, and he's got a wonderful tone on to everything that he plays. He plays a PRS sometimes, and then he plays the Gibson. He plays all guitars, and of course makes them sing. While I'm waiting on Jimmy, because I'm just going to check out where he has slipped into the. Oh, here we are. He's here. I thought he might have lost him in the ether. You're there, Jimmy, which is great. Yes, Jimmy. Floyd vibes. Well, I definitely he's going to tell me all about that, because I know he's a fan of all that kind of stuff. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jimmy Smith.
Good
How
evening.
are you, Jimmy?
I'm pretty good.
Jimmy, I thought I lost you into the ether there.
Yeah, I kind of got. It's a minute late. Is it okay?
You're okay. Don't worry about it. It's probably me. I probably started early. I thought I was right here with all my clocks.
I think
But anyway.
it's 10:01. I think. Well, I was kind of here on time, but hey, whatever. Here, I'm here now.
Listen to me now. It is a privilege and an honor for me to have you on this show, and I'm not just saying that because I don't say that to everybody. But you're highly, highly respected dude on the music scene in this country and abroad. But a lot of my friends and me and all of us, and I've been around and toured and done all that kind of stuff, and your name comes up synonymously all the time when it comes to session guitar playing. But before we get into all of that, going right back, you were described one time when somebody asked Rory Gallagher, described him as the best guitar player in Ireland. And he said, well, not really. There's this young guy above in Navan who I would actually say is the best guitar player in Ireland. How did that feel to get that feedback from the man himself?
I never actually. I think he's supposed to have said it on the Late Late Show.
That's right.
I never actually heard it, but I knew
Yeah.
Rory. It was. I had formed the Bogey Boys
Yes.
in late '78, and within a month of forming the band, we developed a very strong following in Dublin. So we're playing in our first headline gig was at the Bagot Inn,
Yeah.
which is now long gone. But anyway, so we were playing there, and it was before the gig, and we're up in the dressing room doing whatever. Somebody goes up to go. We had 3 brothers who were our road crew at the time.
Okay.
The Murphys from Ballyfermot, tough lads. Yeah. And Tony comes up and says, Jesus, Rory Gallagher's after walking into the gig. I said, it's our gig tonight. Jesus. So we went down to play, and we, of course, were pretty excited because it was full house and stuff, and the band had only been formed like a month. We had about 10 original tunes that I'd written, and then the rest were covers and stuff. So we got out and we're doing our thing, and I'm looking for Rory all the time during the gig.
Yeah, of course.
I'm 18 or 19, and it's like can't see him, of course. It's just see faces, and it's black and whatever. But at the end of the gig, we did the encore, and you go upstairs. There was a back kind of I hate it. It's not a dressing room. It was a kind of a storeroom or something.
I know it well. Yeah,
you remember it, of course. And McGilla, Tony came into me and says, Rory wants to come back and meet you. And I said, cool. What am I going to say? No. So Rory came back, and the sweetest guy. He said, love the band, love your guitar playing, and it's fantastic. Will you open for me in the stadium? I did 5 nights every year at the stadium.
Yeah.
So this was like September, October. And I said, yeah, without even thinking of it, of course. So we opened from that it led to, we went to London and Holland and various places with him, and he was instrumental in getting us signed to Chrysalis Records, who he was signed to.
Yes, at the time, yeah.
And in fact, by the time we came to do our second album with the Bogies, we did the first album in Dublin, but the second one we did in London, and we were rehearsing there was a band called the Thompson Twins, who were, before they
Yeah.
became famous, were a collective from Northern England, fronted by Tom
Okay.
Bailey. And interesting kind of band. Then they went on to be a big pop thing, which is not really what they were doing at this point. So
Okay.
we were sharing the rehearsal room with them, and then we were moving into the studio, the recording, which Rory owned, as it turns out.
Okay.
And we used Tom Bailey. Tom from the Thompson Twins played on that album. But anyway, so we were recording in that studio, and Rory was popping in all the time because Alan O'Duffy produced that, who produced about 3 albums of Rory's.
Yes.
And I played his famous Strat on a couple of tracks on the album, just to say I played it, you know.
Nice. Lovely.
And yeah, and then the interesting thing is that here's the thing, you know, like I'm 20 maybe now, and pretty arrogant, and it was different. It was the time of punk rock in London, so you know, the Clash and Pistols had passed. So it was now that kind of coming to the end of the punk, coming into the post-punk period, and Rory was not a cool guy. I mean, he just wasn't. History is very kind to
different era. Yeah.
And he had fallen out of favor with the London people. He was still a big star wherever he played, but
yeah.
And then he came down one day, and we were having coffee and chatting and stuff, and he said, you know, if you want me to play on a couple of tracks, you know, it'll be cool, and it's good. And I'm kind of going, you know, we're a 3-piece band, and I was really chatting with the lads and saying, well, kind of associating ourselves too much with Rory might not be a cool. Now, how arrogant was that? And I regretted that. I don't have many regrets, but that's one.
Jimmy. Well, you know what? Like, look, at the end of the day, you're that's how you felt. I know when I was 20, I would have been very headstrong about the music I was releasing, and rightly so. So look, what the hey, you know, what the hey. But how did this? And I know you've probably been asked this a million times, but when you were approached about Thin Lizzy to replace Brian Robson, how did that happen, and why did that happen?
It was, again, not long out. Well, it was about 19. I don't know what year it was. It was before the probably 79. Again, the band was the Bogies' first album was coming out, and we were doing a series of shows in Dublin in the Sportsman's Inn and a couple of late night things in McGonagall's, and there were. So Lizzy were on a break at the time, and the whole thing had happened where Midge.
Yes.
Midge was playing with them, and I knew Midge because he was in Chrysalis as well.
Yeah.
And they were going to, it was, oh God, I can't remember the details. The Reading Festival and a few of those things were coming up. And so Brian Downey came. It was normal at that point. Phil would come down to a gig and get up and play with us. That was kind of a normal thing, you know.
Lovely.
And then Phil wasn't there one night, and Brian came to me and he said, listen, you know the story with Midge, and he's gonna. I said, I know. I'd heard Ultravox's some of the mixes of the first album in London, and he says Midge is out, and he was never really in the band. He just jumped in as a last minute replacement. We'd love you to replace to be the full time guitarist. And I was kind of saying, well, you know, the album's coming out, and again with historical. You know, we now have lionized Lizzy, and I'm a huge fan of Lizzy, always was. But they had hit it. They were in quite a slump at that point because they'd done the American thing, they'd done all the famous Sydney Opera House thing, and in that the 2 years after that was all the problems with Brian, and then Gary coming in and going out, and then Midge coming in, and they had dropped a lot. They had kind of. In fact, I remember Brian saying to me, he says, you're not enthusiastic. I said, look, Brian, I love the band. I love Thin Lizzy. I think Phil is just the best rock star we've ever had. But I think at this point in time, you're a bit of an institution. You've become kind of, and I'm a part of a thing that I brought up myself, and it's like, it could go anywhere.
It's moving. It's moving still. Yeah.
And so I did try and do it. Then Phil got on. Then in the Shelburne, so Phil got involved, and Phil was a very persuasive cat. And I really wanted to do it, but I didn't want to let the band down, and I was contracted for the album to come out, and they were saying, look, we can sort all that out. We can get you can have the album released, your own album with the Bogies, and work with us, and they could sort out. They were still powerful, and I said, well, look, I'll do the Reading Festival with you. I'll do a few of the cool things, you know. but they said, no, we don't want to do that anymore. We've just done that with Midge, and we've had Gary in and out, and we want a full-time guy.
Yeah.
Which turned out to be
get the show back on the road.
Yeah, so it was a hard decision, and I think it was I'll tell you what it was, actually, frankly. We did a thing in the stadium. It was called, it was in a magazine. There was the Hot Press at the time, but there was also a kind of a pop magazine called the Starlight or Spotlight, right?
Yeah.
And they used to have awards every year, but it was very middle of the road with Larry Gogan and all these people on it, right?
Okay.
And show bands and things. So we did that, and Phil did something on it as well. And afterwards, we went to a club.
Okay.
And I was hanging out with Phil and Caroline and those people, the Lizzie people. And my dad was there. My dad was a musician, and he knew Phil because I met Phil when I was 13. I opened for them in Navan. You know what I mean? I'd known him that long.
Right? Wow. Okay. Cool.
So my father had met him a few times before, and Phil was a gentleman. He was like, he kind of remembered my dad, and he was like chatting to him and whatever. And then after a while, my dad says, you know, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I said, you joined that band. He said, I know. I mean, I developed my own problems with alcohol and drugs, and I've been sober now for a long time. Yeah. But even at that early age, my dad said, you join that band, you'll be dead in 6 months. He saw what was happening.
He saw it.
Yeah. And he was right. And that wasn't the main factor. I kind of decided not to do it at that point. But when he said that, I was like, yeah, you know, that is something to consider. I said, there was a darkness around the band at that time. I thought anyway.
There was, for sure. There was. And time, when we look back on it now, we can see all of that, of course. Sure. And but the Bogey Boys were a force to reckon with. Also, in fairness, now you guys were a serious underground act that rose and rose and rose. I mean, so I would say, you know, kudos to that. You stuck by your guns. You've gone on to play session with, as I mentioned earlier, on many great people, Shaka Khan, Lisa Stansfield, and the likes. How did you get from, so the Bogey Boys is your thing, and that's what you're doing, and you're gigging away, and then at some point, did people start to just approach you in general and go, listen, I want you to play on this and that? Was it through the record label, or was it just at gigs that people were coming towards you?
It was a lot of things. I mean, the Bogey Boys were, I'd been a musician all my life. I had, you know, I played with my dad when I was like 8, 9 years old. I'd always been, you know, music was always my thing. And then there was that period where, but prior to the Bogey Boys, I'd been doing some sessions because I'd developed a reputation by playing in on country. People like, oddly enough, the weirdest thing, Big Tom, people like that in Castleblaney. I was working in a band in Castleblaney, and I wanted to know about studios, how it
works.
How it works, how studios work. It's very different in studios. Now, I had been, my very first session, I was 15 years old, and I was working with an Irish show band, a country show band, and I was playing a lot of country guitar, and they wanted me to play. They asked me, or I asked them, I said, you're going to use Dublin session guys, can I play guitar on it? And they said, yeah, sure, you play guitar, you play lead guitar on it. We're going to get just, it was Noel Keelan was producing it, and I went into the studio, and the rhythm guitar players on that session were Louis Stewart and Des Moore.
So you're here at 15 years of age, standing between these two guys.
Yeah, in front, and I'm the lead guitar player, and I'm looking at Louis Stewart going, who I idolize, and Des Moore, who's another fantastic player, Paul Moore's dad. I'm going, Jesus Christ, did I bite off more than I can chew here? Yeah,
fabulous players. Yeah,
but the weird thing from that was that they were hugely, and Noel Keelan and John Ryan and these guys were, they asked me back. They said, hey, we like what you do there. That's fantastic. And would you come back and do some more sessions? So I was doing sessions then at 16 with Johnny Wadham and John Drummond and all those guys, the jazz guys. And then I got a little older, and I just moved into the Bogies. But while I was doing that, I did, like, for instance, that Ray Lynham single that was #1 in the charts. That there was a guitar solo I did on. It was his biggest chart single. I did that just at the same time as I started the Bogey Boys. I was working as being a rock guy at night. And then one day I'm called in by Ray Lynham and John Ryan. Will you play guitar solo over this track, which was kind of a modern country track?
Yeah,
which I'm very into country music, by the way. And so things. It was happening, and then it just kind of the Bogies took over, and then
Yeah.
after the Bogies, I was in America. So I was. It was the studio thing was Big Tom, the famous country singer,
Yes.
and they had a studio there in Castleblaney. So I was one of those very annoying young guys who Artie McGlynn became a big mentor for me because I just pestered Artie because I was living between Castleblaney and Oma, and I was living around the corner from Artie, and I knew who he was. I'd seen him play several times, and I thought he was a brilliant guitarist. And so I would just show up at his door at 9 o'clock in the morning with the guitar, and go, "Hey, Artie, I'm playing with Frank Gall, who's Brian Gall's brother, who Artie was playing with." And he says, "I've seen you play. You're a great little player." And I said, "Yeah, but I want to get some of your stuff." And Artie would always say, "Come in," and we'd have a cup of tea and eat. I didn't even drink at the time. I was 15 or 16. I was like, eat with the head hanging off him, and get a cup of tea on and get the guitars out. Never said no to me. So these guys were very cool. So I went down anyway. So I went down to Big Tom. I knew they had a studio there. The only studio that wasn't in Dublin was in Castleblaney.
Okay, yeah.
It was a 16-track Ampex, or Studer,
which at the time was an amazing setup.
It was amazing, and to have it outside Dublin was really amazing. So I went down to Big Tom, who owned a pub, and I walked into him again, just not knowing any better, and I didn't know what I wanted to ask him. So I went down to him and said, "Hey Tom, I'm Jimmy, and I play." "Oh," he said, "I know who you are. You're the little lad that plays." Yeah. I said, "Well, listen, you've got the studio up there, and I want to, figure out how it works." This is before I started doing sessions in Dublin, and I'd like to know what He said, "There's the keys. Knock yourself out." He gave me the keys,
nice.
and so I pretty much lived there for a year.
Yeah,
in the studio.
What a nice thought.
A sweet guy, the sweetest guy. Imagine that. So I had my own studio. It was like, what? I didn't know how to operate on it. There was a guy, Tony Campbell, who used to be in there all the time for sessions. But when he wasn't paid, he wasn't there. So I'd be getting as much as he could. He'd leave, and I'd spend all night in there changing cap stands and recording stuff. And I ended up engineering stuff and setting up, and then playing guitars on things for all kinds of Philomena Begley and Tom himself and all kinds of people.
Yeah. That's like that is the ultimate apprenticeship, isn't it? That is that's unique. I'd say you're on your own on that score.
Well, there was very few people were that lucky to gain access to a working studio.
Most of us only got to look in the door, or you were either on a time schedule and you had to get out. That's brilliant. But then, like moving up to Dublin and the sessions, say, some of the more prevalent pop sessions and rock and stuff like that. Do you, judging by what you're telling me, you had the chops cut, you were ready to go anyway. Did you start to just put the feelers out then at that point, or did you need to even put the feelers out? Did the work kind of just come your way with regards to session?
It kind of came my way. You would do it. Well, first of all, there were very few young rock players who could read music. In fact, there was none.
Unique, yeah.
And I'll never forget the very first time the concert orchestra called me in there. I got a phone call from somebody. "Would you come in and play with the concert?" I said, "Oh, I've never played with an orchestra. I'm not sure. What is it?" And it's a rock thing. And Des Moore recommended you because Des doesn't want to play it. He'll play the rhythm guitar on it. Des' thing wasn't rocking.
Okay.
And so I went in, and it was Francis O'Doon was conducting, and I'd never been under a conductor before. So I said, "What'll I bring in?" I'd roadies and stuff at this point. I'm in the boat, and it's like Marshall Stacks, and so I brought in a Marshall 50-watt combo.
Lovely.
And they put the music up. I started playing and having a good time, and about 15-20, thinking I'm doing good, and about 15-20 minutes later, the conductor stops everything and says, okay, the rhythm section is far too loud. And Des Moore just said, "Francis, it's Jimmy." He pointing at me. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm going, "Geez, you could have told." "Yeah, you fucker, you could have told me." But it was one of the great lessons about dynamics. I didn't understand how quiet orchestras. But that was my baptism of fire. And even though I kind of fucked up by being so loud, they once I turned out, then I turned down, and fine. Yeah. But I could read the music, and that's why. So they would call me in, and I got a lot of sessions that way.
Yeah.
And then the Ray Lynham thing, because it was such a big hit record, and every time we would play Larry Gogan, would say, "That's Jimmy Smith from the Bogey Boys playing that solo in the end. It's amazing." And so people would want to, that kind of thing. It's word of mouth.
Get your name out there, word of mouth, doesn't it? Yeah. But like moving into like playing alongside Shaka Khan or Lisa Stansfield, when I think of those kind of acts, you're moving into a whole new realm, aren't you? Really, of rhythm and lead with regards to you're not just kind of rocking out the usual kind of solo that lands in the middle of every rock song. It's clever, isn't it? It's clever guitar playing. Like it's a whole new world. Like
Well, I had moved at this point. I had moved to Detroit, and I was living there, and I was
okay,
investigating all the because it's very interesting when some people think I'm just a blues player or just a rock player, or
yeah,
at different times in my life I've been a country player and I've been semi-orchestral player. Or when I was in America, I really started investigating black music and
yeah.
uh, proto punk. I played with the MC5 and people like that. Chad Smith from the Chili Peppers, we had a band, and
Wow.
so it meant that I was getting. So at one point, I was the only white guy in an all black band, and we worked with Prince. Then we were recorded in Paisley Park with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. So I very quickly would, okay, right, this thing, you don't
Mm,
come in with you have to come in with a big toolkit of stuff,
yeah,
rhythms and inversions and
yeah,
understanding of this stuff. And I was I was obsessed with music anyway. So there was
yeah,
nothing you could play me when I was, whenever I was living in Detroit, 23, 24, that
yeah.
I didn't kind of hear before. I had investigated stuff exhaustive. I was obsessively autistic about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which is good. I mean, I think that's the key to most session players, and any of them I know anyway, they're constantly evolving and
Yes.
with equipment as well. By the way, Jimmy, not just
Yeah.
music.
Sure.
Uh,
With sounds and
yeah,
approaches, of course,
yeah,
and
yeah,
styles, and getting inside the style and figure, because I was also a songwriter. So I mean,
yeah,
I started investigating a lot and composition and all that business, and
yeah, yeah.
it's
It's
the,
important.
it's important. And whatever you do, talent isn't. Yeah, there's a God given, or however you want to say it. There's a kind of a natural talent, but most of it is hard work and research. And
Yeah, I agree
I
with you.
I
I
would
agree
hear
with you.
something and I go, okay, I have to. What the hell is that? I have to figure that out. I have to find out what that is. Or I would listen to Paul Simon or Lowell George, or some of these great songwriters, and I go, well, I want to write some lyrics. I want to do that, and because
Yeah,
I'd always written poetry, so it was like,
yeah.
investigating the nuts and bolts of writing 4 minutes of interesting music. That was a big obsession for years. Still is.
Yeah, and it doesn't. You're right. It doesn't just happen by chance.
No.
I've met many people down through the years that were good, but there's being good, and then there's being good with the knowledge to bring it to the next level. Isn't that? Tell me this. I know you from BIM, of course, because I studied up there myself, and I met you there, and you were a formidable force up there at the time, and I know many of the young guys and girls that were in there. I was a mature student, of course, the owl fella in the back of the classroom. But uh,
Imagine how I felt then, but
how did you feel? Yeah, but they all
that's
had
the odd
such.
thing. Actually, that's an odd thing, Dave. I loved teaching there, and I never felt that. Once the initial, obviously, I'm old enough to be some of their father, whatever, but
Yeah,
even
yeah,
the mature students, and I could see it with mature students and kids and stuff. Once that kind of early kind of magnets rubbing off each other because of the
yeah,
generations settled into, we both like Pantera, or we both love Led Zeppelin, or I love George Jones, or whatever the hell it is.
yeah,
They
yeah,
That just dissipated. I never felt a divide between me and the students. I felt we were kind of the same.
yeah,
Maybe I just moved a little further down the road so I could tell them some stuff, but
yeah, yeah,
we had all the same enthusiasm for the same things.
yeah. And the goal was the same, wasn't it? Really? Yeah.
Hmm.
But when I was there, I was doing. I went twice actually. Did some of the diplomas up there, the drumming and songwriting. But your name popped up so much when I be talking to different people about because the guitar course and anybody that was on it were just in awe of you, not in awe of you in a way that you're like, oh, whatever. They were in awe of you because they just really enjoyed going to your classes. They enjoyed the information. They enjoyed the way you gave the information, Joe. And it was just a wonderful time to be there as well myself because I had been familiar with you from the Bogey Boys and hearing all about I was familiar with you anyway. And I often tried to sneak into some of your classes, but I could never get in. I'd be very careful about going in there. But do you feel having been in BIM? I know you're finished there now, but at the time when you were there, there's a whole sort of world of mini Jimmy Smithians out there now going around with all this information in their minds. Do you feel like you've given a really good sort of service out to a lot of the younger people by being there? Because I do. I think you did.
Well, I'd like to think that was the case. I mean, it probably, I wouldn't like them. I would have liked. I'd like. them not to be mini me's. I'd like them
No,
to be
no, of course.
critical
Yeah,
thinkers and
yeah,
do things differently and consider, give them the tools to figure it out for themselves. That's what that was my, I haven't said that. I mean, my assistant now, I work with the chamber orchestra, a lot of arranging
yeah,
and
yeah.
some conducting. And my assistant is an ex-student. He's one of the brighter guitar students who I could see that sometimes, if I have a gift, it was, maybe I'm being arrogant here, but I could kind of tell, there's a kid who's really good at a certain thing. And here's another
Yeah,
guy who's very interested in harmony. So this chap, Anthony, I spotted straight away. This
yeah,
guy who was a very good rock player, or a jazz player, really good player, but also had just an insane, insatiable interest in harmony. And I
okay,
said, dude, what you should do is get tutorials with me and then go to the academy, get extra classes there, study
yeah,
another instrument, learn about orchestration, learn more about it, extend that way. And I would
yeah.
tell that to, I would advise certain students to, it's fine if you become a rock star, that's going to be great. But if you don't,
This
you get
is
older and your goals change. So
yeah,
prepare
yeah,
yourself for anything. There's games is a big thing. Orchestration, working in various recording itself. Some
yeah,
people showed. I think I could spot the talent. I think I was good at spotting what people were good at, and I
yeah.
encourage you in that.
Well, a friend of mine, actually, I'm not sure if you remember. Well, you probably do. Dylan Hughes was up there,
Oh,
a good
then,
friend of
yeah,
mine.
yeah, yeah,
And anytime I would meet Dylan, because we jammed together a lot, and he would always, when he'd be playing stuff, he'd reference you a lot, And I said, "Yeah, I know, Jimmy. Yeah, I know what you're talking about." And he go, "Oh, yeah, yeah," but just like the information, what he felt like that what he knew before, pre meeting you, and after was just a huge leap in information. And I thought, yeah, that's how you do it. That's the way to, if you can get that information across, that helps people to develop, rather than, as you said, that you don't ever want to be like you, but to get your information across is a wonderful thing.
Well, it's an interesting thing because I was one of my classes was research, and which is essentially teaching undergrads how to write a thesis. Really, you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
it incorporates lots of stuff, but I really concentrated on the philosophy end of it because that's the thing that it interests me so much. And it's like I would encourage all students, first years, there was obviously the core text that they all had to have, but I added 3 or 4 books to all the students I had, saying you have to
yeah,
read these books because these will help you look at yourself, look at what your philosophy on certain things. Why are you here? Why do you do what you're doing?
yeah,
Where could it possibly bring you? Look at the possibilities. And one of my more modern guys who's kind of more a social, as a kind of a, what would he be, a sociologist more than a
yeah,
philosopher,
yeah,
Vygotsky. And he's a Russian guy, and he's like, his thing is all about mentor mentee type of working with uh dissemination of information. And
yeah,
it's important that, if I'm giving you a class on harmony, for instance, that I try and figure out, well, where are you? I mean, you're not just a beginner, you know what's going on.
yeah,
So how,
yeah,
and incorporating everything to expand it. That's what it is.
yeah,
Not just
yeah,
starting and rote. Everybody goes through this to hear, because everybody's at a different level all the time.
yeah. True. Yes,
So
absolutely. Yeah, and finding that spot.
mm.
Yeah, definitely. Tell me, we'll get it. Speaking of philosophy, because I know you've got interesting views on it. But I'm not going to get too philosophical as such, but a little, maybe a slight bit political, right?
Okay.
The pandemic. I know it's the word people go, oh, geez, is not this again. But throughout the lockdown, you were quite busy, and I was keeping an eye on your stuff online, your videos, everything was yourself, and Carrie, of course, that you were doing duets with.
Yeah.
You were releasing lovely stuff, both covers and originals, and it was great. Now I don't know if you saw the song I just played before you came on there, which was your version of the prayer, my prayer. You did on the Les
Oh,
Paul.
yes.
Well, I just love it. Those were the videos I love the most because it was your facial expressions and everything. You're just getting into it. I love it. But what do you think of the state of play for musicians right now at the other end of it coming out now? Like, do you think would it be fair to say that even though we're coming back around and we're gigging and all that, but there's kind of scarring there? There's a sort of a scarring left on the music scene. And do you think we're going to recover from it?
It's a big question. Yes, I think there's a huge scarring. I think there's enormous PTSD for for anybody that's an artist. And that's the thing with Irish people. I lived in America for 10 years, and it took me a long time to own the fact that I was an artist, you
Yeah.
know, because, you say that you're from Nav, and what are you, an artist? You go, oh, you're not an artist, you're an arsehole, you know what I mean? The kind of thing.
Yeah. That's
And,
the
and,
preconception, isn't it?
yeah, and
Yeah.
so we end up invalidating ourselves when it's like, hold on, there's enough people out there going to invalidate what we do.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be part of it. I'm going to try and validate what I do. So I think this has invalidated us in a great way. The whole pandemic, the 2 years of that, and the way we've been treated by governments and various bodies. I think for musicians, it's a tough time now. It's like this is where philosophy will come in to help us all. I mean, my daughter is an artist. She did her first album last year, Trophy Wife, she's called, and
Super.
yeah, and we worked together on it. Well, she produced it pretty much. I just helped her,
Yeah.
and it was a really strong piece of work. And she released it just at the beginning of the pandemic, and there was
Oh,
no, so she was just out of
yeah.
college, and so there was no.
Yeah.
She had a band, a great little band. Some ex-students of mine actually had
Yeah.
fantastic guitar, and they were going to do the Workmans and the Grand Social, all that business.
All the
Of
stuff
course, that all
usual.
went.
Yeah.
So there is a kind of a futility, a feeling of futility. I personally, I think it's very important that if we identify as an artist, if we you know uh, are willing and brave enough to call ourselves artists, then it's our
Yeah.
duty to create, right?
Yeah.
Without recompense. I mean, if we get, I think we should be paid for what we do, but apart, that's a different argument. It's like, no, if you're an artist, then you must create. You must create
Yeah.
in whatever way you can. I mean,
Yeah.
I was just listening to that fantastic. It's called Elegy on the End of Life, and it's written by, I think it's called it's a quartet written by a Jewish guy in Bergen-Belsen, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Written on bits of toilet paper. He had no
Wow.
instruments, and he wrote a quartet, and it's played now. People play it. It's just a remarkable piece of music. And if you think that guy, as a composer, he's there and his head shaved, he's to wear the yellow star, getting treated like getting brutalized every moment of the day, and still finds time to create this wonderful piece of music. That's an inspiration for all of us. So no matter what we do, if you're an artist, you create regardless.
There's a way. But I think of, you mentioned your daughter there having released her body of work, which obviously took a long time to do,
Sure.
and then having the misfortune of the pandemic, right? And that's one thing. But what followed in suit, governmentally, the way the bodies, as you say yourself, the government bodies and ministers and stuff, it was pretty slack, wasn't it? It was pretty. I felt anyway, we were bottom of the food chain, and it was like, as we weren't really recognized as a real thing. And then, of course, there was some bodies set up, wasn't there? There was a couple of bodies set up for
There were
musicians.
well, it's
I
again,
don't.
Dave,
Yeah.
it's a long-standing bugbear of mine. You may or may not know, I ran for president in 2018.
I do.
Well, it was a bit of fun and it was amazing, but I was working with Broadsheet on it, and it was like, I didn't expect to be president. That was not the point. The point was to test democracy.
Yeah.
I'll talk about that another day. But the side takeaway from it was, oh, neoliberalism, which is pretty much what the governmental philosophy we're living under now.
Yeah.
They have no understanding of what we do, what artists do, what musicians and sculptors and painters and poets. They really have no understanding of what to do, and they don't value it at all. But they will go out. Enda Kenny at the time, and several people afterwards would go out to New York and talk about our wonderful, rich cultural heritage. James Joyce, Brennan B, and U2, Van Morrison. Every one of them, by the way,
Yeah.
who left Ireland in order to become anyway successful. We were never
That's
helped
a
at all.
very interesting point. Every one of them, and it was Phil Lynott who actually was quoted on saying that too. That you got to get out of here to get famous and come back, and it's so true.
So
For some reason,
these Philistines have no right to claim into art.
Yeah.
how much of a help that has been. I'm sure some people have benefited from it, and the best of luck to them.
Yeah.
But your question is where some kid, I think somebody from another generation who's very hip to TikTok and Instagramming and all that business and YouTube may come up with the new industry model, but nobody has yet. I think
Mm.
we're on hiding to nothing unless we change. And I'm not just talking about Ireland; I'm talking about worldwide. I mean, there has
Yeah.
been. It's a
Yeah.
different world in many, many ways. It's going to change more dramatically.
Yeah.
Even if this COVID thing ends magically tomorrow, the damage that has been done economically and stuff is just unquantifiable.
Ferocious.
And
Yeah. Yeah. It is. Somebody said to me, we were chatting because we have these conversations up and down, myself and friends of mine regularly, about how like the scarring and all that and blah blah blah. But then there's the flip side of the coin, the positive, where all this original music is being created in bedrooms all over the place globally. But let's just take Ireland for example, and there's this burst, and I've been talking to some DJs around the country, and they're saying like their mailboxes are just bursting with great, like for the first time in a long time, just excellent music, because it's been produced and people had time to actually sit down and write it and make quality music. But then I asked them the question, that's brilliant, that's great news, I'm delighted, but where is it all going to go? Are you going to play your entire inbox?
they
Can you
can't.
play?
They clearly
You
can't. And
can't.
there has been. I've noticed it with Carrie and with Trophy Wife, trying to get them on radio and all that stuff. There's a glut of stuff now. I don't hear it all. I'm not a DJ,
Yeah.
and I'm no fan of the old music industry. But the only thing about it was very difficult to get a record made. That was an incredibly difficult path of
Yeah.
demos and blah 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 and publishing deals
Yeah.
and so 4 years later, 3 years later, you get one album out, and then it gets panned and whatever, or it
Yeah.
does well. But
Yeah.
now you can make something. I can write a song right here and record it and release it and send it to radio tonight, literally. So there's no filter. That's the problem. And it's, on the one hand, it's brilliant that there are all these artists creating stuff all the time, but we have to look at some way of compartmentalize it. You can't just flood and expect to get on the radio, for instance. Maybe radio is not the way to go anyway, and then streaming is not the way to go. We know
Yeah,
this.
you see, yeah, that's what I'm thinking too, because that's exactly it. You hit the nail on the head. When you create this glut of stuff and it's all excellent and the quality is generally very good. But then if you're trying to funnel it all into this tiny little hole called radio or streaming, where there's no money, which is another conversation, but there's just no money anyway. You put your music up on iTunes or Spotify, the dreaded Spotify, you're not going to reap any reward. So then I wonder, what's the answer? Like, what is the answer for younger musicians? What's the path?
I don't have it. I think that they will. Some clever, maybe not necessarily younger musician, maybe an older musician. Who knows? I know Patreon and stuff with a lot of guys who are already established. But if you're not an established artist, it's very difficult to be heard among the noise. There's so much noise. So
Yeah,
I mean, the old model, going back to the Bogie Boys and stuff, was literally start a band and go play everywhere,
just go
anywhere.
play. Yeah.
That'll have us, and to build a grassroots audience.
Yeah,
Go into a studio, release something, they'll buy it, it'll spread out, get a big record deal, so on. And that was the old model. It's no longer workable. This new, I don't know. I really don't know, because I see so many artists with like millions and millions of hits and Spotify streams and stuff, and it means nothing. It means, and I'm not just talking about financially, I'm talking about, a career that maybe music ephemerality is the new thing in music, that you just make a record and then you disappear and do something else. I don't know. I hope that's not the case. I think I'm very conflicted about this, Dave, because I think that, we're with this whole reset idea, the economic reset. Now, I'm not talking about a conspiracy theory. There is an economic reset going on, because there has to be, because of what this has cost Western society. And I think we're going to be victims in that as well, because everything I see that's happening at the moment, and I've done a few. I just did the Cork Jazz Festival last week, and that I was paid by the government, and it's like, I'm very worried about that.
Yeah.
That's a form of communism that I can't where does that end? Does the government starts deciding that what you're doing is too decadent or not good enough,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah,
And so I would love the opportunity for musicians to create their own streams, not just of income. Well, you do need income. That's a reality, and it's
yeah, yeah.
if you no computer and
Yeah,
no software, you can't make music. So that costs
yeah.
money. So
I suppose that's the missing link that I'm worried about at the moment. That's the missing link because we have all the gear now. Like as opposed to Big Tom Studio that you were graced with many years back, and what a wonderful thing to now where that and some is in everybody's living room, but yet,
absolutely, it's right here in front of me, and it's
but,
like,
but it's trying to get it. It's trying to get that as you said, the old pathway was to get out and actually knock on doors and play in front of people. But if the government start to control all of that, with regards to COVID or whatever else is coming, then it's like a start-stop thing, isn't it? All the time,
well,
you get
there's
so
no
far.
doubt there's no doubt the control is the thing, and we're arguing about vax and unvax, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
divide and conquer. And it was interesting because I think I told you just before we come on air that I was the one that was interviewed. RTE came out and interviewed me as a musician to see
yeah,
how happy I was about all this money that was being thrown at us. Now I never got any of it. I'm not
yeah,
moaning. I'm just saying my
yeah,
question to the RTE guy was, well, I'm not very excited about it because I don't know how Catherine Martin, because I had been
yeah,
aware of her successors, Josepha Madigan and Heather
yeah,
Humphreys,
yeah,
and I had been during that time, the presidential thing. Just prior to that, I had been very active in trying to keep awareness about the orchestras, for instance, right? And I always
yeah,
encouraged all my students in BIM to go and see the concert halls, to go to the concert hall and
yeah,
see that, experience real dynamics from
yeah,
real instrument. It's not rock and roll. Sometimes it is
yeah,
actually, but
yeah,
you know, it's a different thing. And so nearly to a man and a woman, if I can say that without being gender presumptive, anyone that went to the concert hall came back going, "Wow, that's pretty amazing. I didn't understand
yeah,
really about dynamics till I saw it in action." And
yeah,
I think that for that and many other reasons, we need orchestras and we need art galleries and we need museums, because this is what defines us as a nation. And
yes,
I thought, I was very vocal in my support of them, but we've had successive ministers of art who are Philistines and Luddites. Who I invited one of them, Josepha Madigan, at the time, down to any of the shows. She never came to one concert hall. Our Minister for Arts. It's just appalling.
yeah, yeah.
Appalling.
It's kind of yeah,
And that's what we're dealing with. So we're dealing with people that, to them, to us as artists and musicians, music is hugely important, so much that we'll sacrifice nearly everything for it. But
yeah,
the people that are ruling us, music is not at all important to them until it's a photo op or something, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a strange one. I don't know how. I don't know where. Yeah, I don't know where. The sky from the trees is, or where the end of it is. But I certainly thank you, Jimmy, for everything that you have done so far. And of course, the presidential run was it was a great thing. And you know what? It didn't matter actually, to be honest. When I was watching it, whether you did it or became president, that wasn't the point. I got that when you were doing it. But aside from all that as well, I would like to personally thank you for your many years of service to the music industry as a session player. I know, well, I don't
Thank
know
you,
if
Dave.
people say that enough to you. Your influence is much more far-reaching than you might realize yourself amongst musicians, especially. And as long as you keep trucking and streaming and going on live and doing your thing, I think it gives me a lift anyway, and many others. And I look forward to seeing what is happening next, Jimmy, with regards to
Uh,
gigs.
I'm back doing some gigs in Dublin with Donald Kirk.
Yeah,
I'm doing we're doing 2 nights in Navan with Brian Byrne, a fellow Navanite. Brian's a very talented arranger and player. He lives in
right.
America now. He's done some movies and stuff. We're doing 2 shows in a theater in Navan. Carrie's going to do that with me, but there's other people on, Declan O'Rourke and
Excellent.
some great jazz. Ryan Quigley on trumpet, Guy Rugby, and Derek O'Connor on sax. It's just an amazing band, and that'll be a lot
Brilliant.
of fun. And then I'm doing with Declan. I'm doing a couple of things, a Christmas thing with him, who's one of
Lovely.
my favorite songwriters. He's just a great songwriter, Declan, and a lovely
Declan
guy.
O'Rourke.
Yeah,
Yeah, he is a fantastic songwriter. Absolutely. A
and
gem.
he's a gem and a sweetheart. And I'm just working on constantly researching stuff and writing stuff and recording stuff, and
Brilliant.
it carries on, nothing changes, you know.
Yeah, but it's good, isn't it? It's good that, like, look, you're really enjoying the tech side of things, and having everything at your fingertips is wonderful. When I think of the journey, and I just pictured when you said that to me, I still have it in my mind of you getting the keys off Big Tom for the studio, from all the way that back then to now. But you're still, your passion is still there. Your interest is the very same, and I think that's the best lesson for anybody that's into music. Is just keep doing the same. Just keep doing it, isn't it? Just keep
I think
going.
it is. I will acknowledge I've been lucky and privileged, and maybe some of the things that came my way aren't there anymore for other kids. But there are other versions of them. Just keep
Other
doing stuff.
ways,
Just
other
keep
ways.
playing. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
keep playing. Yeah, and keep learning, keep
Yes.
researching.
I'll keep learning all the time.
Thank you so much, Jimmy Smith.
Thank you, Dave.
You've been a legend as always, and I'm delighted to have had you on Friday Night Live. It's great to look back on all the episodes and go, you're in the archive now for sure. Thank you so much. I'll let you off to relax there for the evening and take it easy, and keep in touch, please, and let us know
Thanks for
what's
having me,
happening.
Dave. Take care.
No problem.
Keep
You're
up the
welcome.
good work.
Bye. Bye,
Thanks.
Jimmy.
Bye.
The one and only Jimmy Smith, guitar player extraordinaire and many other things, producer, orchestrator, songwriter, loads of things. Check him out. He's got some really cool stuff. The video I played at the start, which was My Prayer, I think it was by the Platters. I think so. But he does really cool instrumentals, just himself on the guitar, and totally getting into it, like just totally getting into it. He never holds back. And then, of course, other videos that he does as well. He does some duet stuff as well with Carrie and stuff like that. I'll put a link up to one of those videos tomorrow on Friday Night Live, Jimmy, just so everybody can see that as well. But check him out over Christmas, doing stuff with Declan O'Rourke and various different things in Navan. It's going to be wonderful. I love of course, Doc O'Connor. If anybody tells me that he's playing in the brass section, then I'm there. This is a wonderful player. So all that stuff, busy, great to see he's busy and he's going to be gigging and stuff like that. My next guest coming up is Kevin Byrne. Kevin Byrne, you would have met him on Friday Night Live before here a couple of times with Mags, Kevin Mags, from, as we call them, The Odd Couple from KMFL. So before I do that, I'm going to go for a little bit of music, if that's all right. I just want to do a little bit of musical plug-in tonight for some of my friends, both here and abroad. Just to give them a little plug, guests that have been on the show before. This is a friend of mine called Luala, from Limerick here, but living in Canada. And this is her current single called Golden Goddess. She's got a new single coming out soon as well. Check this out, and we'll go to Kevin. Friday Night Live. Lula. Lula, a friend of mine who's from Limerick, but based in Toronto in Canada at the minute, and that's her. That's her single at the minute. Golden Goddess. I love it. The video is awesome, really awesome. I have to say, check her out online. That's on release at the minute. It's on Apple Music, it's on Spotify, it's on Amazon, all the usual. Go download it. It's really cool, and give her a little bit of support. She deserves it. She put a lot of work into that video. I have to say, I really like it. Anyway, my next guest tonight is Kevin Byrne. We're heading to County Carlow. So here we go, and say hello to Kev and check out. There's some really cool stuff happening over on KMFL. Hello, Kev.
Evening, Dave. How are you?
From one pandemic DJ to another. How is things? How are you?
I'm struggling, Dave, but I'm hanging in there. You know yourself.
Good. Yeah. Listen, a lot of people will know you from being on the show a few times, yourself and Mags from KMFL.
Yeah.
But people that won't know, tell us a little bit about KMFL and how it began.
Yeah, it started back in early lockdown. Paddy's Day, actually. We did a live show with the phone, just recording everything in a room. I had 4 speakers, bass bins, 2 mids and 4 tops in the room because I wasn't sure what the sound would be like. And
yeah.
Here I am now in a room with no speakers. Just how.
yeah. I know it's an ever challenging journey, isn't it? For sure.
Yeah,
and I know you and I have spoken about this a lot over phone calls.
Video shoot.
Every time you think you've got it right, there's another adapter. There's something new you have to buy, or there's something linked to somewhere, and keep up with the techie side of things. Because in fairness, it's different, isn't it? This is different from your standard run-of-the-mill radio thing. And I'm not saying that's easy, but it is audio. And for a start, they don't have to look at our ugly mugs, which I suppose is wonderful. Face for radio and all that. Well, for me, I'm not talking about you, of course. So, but when you're visual, as well as you are, the same as we do here on Friday Night Live, it's tricky, isn't it? Like, it is tricky to keep up with.
It can be a pressure because you're kind of you're looking at Instagram, you're looking at Facebook, you're looking at people coming on, not coming on. You're looking to see how many people is looking at you. Whereas on a radio, you could have nobody there. You know what I mean? Or it could be thousands. You don't really know, and it doesn't bother you for some reason. And but no, it's been a bit of fun, you know. And like Mag has been great with it. Claire helps out with Mag's friend, and you know, I'm spending a lot of time in this room over the last 2 years, you know, and kind of planning ahead now, so to speak, as well, you know.
Yeah, you are planning ahead, but I think when I look at the journey, I suppose I was probably, well, I've discovered now I wasn't in at the start because you were telling me all about the cool Christmas shows that you did last year and all that. So I only came in after that. I discovered you and stuff. And we'll talk a little bit about that shortly, what you're going to do this year, because I think it's really awesome what's going to happen. But just from the beginnings of KMFL, so is it basically, is it Kev and Mag's Facebook Live? Is that,
you know, it's. We just kind of came up with this idea that name, what would we do? And I should look at Kevin Mag, Facebook Live. I couldn't think of any. A friend of mine, Nigel in Solar Science up here in Carlow, he designed up backdrops for me. He said, look, there you go. Off you go, there you go. And stick them up behind you. Look a bit professional. You're ugly enough, so try and improve the scenery around you. You know what I mean? So that's why I got there. Yeah. And that's where, and then we found people were finding it difficult to say the name and remember the name KMFL. Whereas now everyone's going, I don't think we could even change it now. You know,
I don't think you could. No, I don't. It's branded in my mind, and it's branded in many people's minds. So no, you couldn't. That's a good sign. That means you're doing a good job. In fairness to you, the name is what the name is, but you're doing a good job. And I've watched you develop the ideas. I sometimes wonder, right, because I know you're in-house there, literally at home, the same as I do Friday Night Live here. Do you find yourselves, because you've gotten quite busy over the past couple of months, like you have a great listenership and viewership, followership. Do you find yourself and Claire and Mags being the core team as such, right? Do you sit down maybe weekly and actually have kind of meetings and stuff? Do you have
well, generally,
or do you bother?
I wouldn't like to hear what Mag would say to that.
No, I wouldn't either.
I generally just come up with ideas. It's kind of like the way I used to gig. When I'm gigging and doing a crazy night, or what am I going to play next? I don't have any time for programmed events. So that makes it like, you know, you go to a disco, for example, or a wine bar, and you hear the same song at the same time all the time. It doesn't work for me, you know? And like I can be sitting here and I would play the Great Big Tom, Four Country Roads, and then I go and play a Bob Dylan song, and then I might jump back to something else, and then I put on Dave Morrissey song, and I kind of go, and that's been evident in the indie show. I mean, I've got some stuff sent in to me that's absolute rubbish, and then I've got stuff that's sent in that's absolutely class. But I play it all anyway. I give it 1 spin or 2 spins or whatever, and you get a lovely message from someone to say, look, thanks for that. It was really nice that you played it. So it's worth something for them, you know what I mean? But to go back to the question, you know, something happens, I get an idea, or Mag will say something to me, and Claire will say something or whatever, and I just come up, you know, something, let's do this or let's do the other, you know? And so, yeah, and when I'm gigging, when I'm DJing myself, I never know what's going to come up next. I just kind of play whatever comes to mind. I might, you know, it's kind of like some...
You're on the fly, aren't you? Yeah, live right that way, yeah.
I don't look at. I'm a long time doing it like that now, and it has worked for me. So, I'd have an idea what I'm going to play, and I'd have a kind of a structure to some point. But I would just do whatever I have to do and just go for it, and straight away look around the room, see what's going on with the people in front of you. Like Jimmy was saying there, like Jimmy is just mega. Like, you know, you go into a trance.
Yeah.
Watching him playing the guitar, I've seen him many times playing, and like, you know,
amazing. Yeah, he's an amazing musician. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I suppose as time goes on, Kev, right? As time goes on, because I'm coming from where I'm sitting here, because we are kind of like, sometimes at the laugh, I say to my wife here, I say, oh, we're nearly like feckin' sister stations here, the two of us, because we kind of, you know, I go and watch your show all the time, and you do mine, and it's lovely. The support is super, and that's what I like about you. Like, you've been very helpful to me, as you know. But do you find that the busier it gets, like the indie show, which is a new thing, relatively new, which is now coming to an end soon, which is there's a final. Now, the indie show is a very busy show, isn't it? It's not like usual run of the mill where you could just play what you like. You've got to organize names in the hat, but also organize that everybody's happy with the way it runs. You have to be careful. Just tell people, I suppose, a little bit about the indie show, because I love it. The idea behind it.
The objective was, like, a lot of the independent, like I'm including you in this as well, have given us support, and then we've interviewed people that are not so much independent artists. Like, we've had, as you know, Curtis Stigers on, Brian Kennedy, John Waite, Rupert Holmes. These are all mega stars in the 80s and the 90s, and we've had them on. We've some big people coming up as well up to Christmas time. Some fantastic guests coming on, and so that's kind of where we are with that. Then the indie show was kind of, look, at one Tuesday night, I said, look, I'll just put a bit of music on, because I like some of the stuff. So I said, might as well go live with it and see what happens. And it just, boom, it just took off. But the thing about it is, it became an interaction between all the artists. And I was just sort of, like, I suppose, the chairperson, you know?
Yeah, but I think that's the best part about it, is that it's that, you know, you can get the superstars and get them, and it's great work, and it's brilliant. I love doing it myself. But also, you can just interact with the people that are in the chat room that listen every week and come every week. And that's what I love about they're all here, by the way. Most of them are here tonight, which is wonderful to see. Seamus, Mag, of course, Mike is here, Mike Dermody, all of them there. But you're giving something to all of the people that are supporting you in the indie show, because we are all in the mix, aren't we? We're all in the hat, which is a great idea.
You know, I don't mean to cut across you on this, like, as well.
No, okay.
Yeah, you're dead right. We're whatever we're doing or whatever but those guys have actually given us an awful lot as well. And you know, like you mentioned, Mike Dermody there, and you've, like, you know, Shay and all is on there, and all the guys, Eamon Walsh and Noel Boland and all. I haven't met Shay Fitzsimmons, but I feel like I know him 50 years. The same with, like, you know, Mike Dermody, Arlo here. And Mike wouldn't have been a guy who would have done a lot of entertainment, but you look at Mike, and I don't mean to be plowmaster, just saying Mike, but he's doing his live shows, and we all want to make sure we catch his live shows. We all know we dip in and out of stuff. We all know what we do. And it was a way for me to kind of just do something and keep, because, you know, something, their input to me, Dave, and like yourself as well, has kept me kind of a little bit sane, because it's been a bit of a strange time for me as well, you know. A full-time job was made redundant with Sky. It was my dream job to some degree. Some days I hated it, some days like everybody else.
Yeah.
And then I had the gigging and that kind of stuff going on, and that all just was gone, you know. And but do I stay negative about it? No. I don't know. I probably wouldn't be talking to you tonight. I probably wouldn't even know you. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, it's
and
strange, isn't it? Isn't that interesting how,
you know,
how many where it has taken you? Because probably the redundancy and the loss of the entertainment and all of that, everything come to a standstill.
yeah.
That's probably the biggest ingredient as to why KMFL is here right
Oh,
now.
yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, look, we make no money on it. Like, have you made any money on this? No, really, we haven't.
Yeah,
Like, like everything in the room here is we went out and bought it, and we just got stuff we could get. And you
yeah,
know, Mag has been great with stuff. She's helped. You know, she buys me a present now of something. You know, there's drum kit sitting here in front of me and microphones and stuff like that. And we're always messing about with stuff and
yeah, yeah,
becoming like a kind of like another great talent here from down in Kilkenny, Gavin Carroll. Gavin comes up here, picks up the guitar, does something here. So now I'm looking at it's like a kind of we're all counseling each other. If that makes us if that makes any
yeah. It
sense.
does. It does make sense. It does 100%. I
Yeah,
think that's exactly what we're doing.
yeah,
Uh, even yourself and myself, we haven't met yet, and we will,
yeah,
but we haven't. And I feel like we know each other quite well now from
yeah,
just meeting and stuff and chatting, and it's just brilliant. It has
yeah,
kept me sane as well. I can tell you that
yeah,
100%.
yeah,
And even with Mag as well, it's great crack. Just watching the two of you and the interactions. I love the Odd Couple myself. I love that
yeah.
show. I think you should bring it
Really
back.
serious.
I'm a big fan of that show. But now, what I really want to ask you about, because this is most important, you're taking a change of direction on KMFL. Little
Yeah,
change, but a good one. You're going to do
yeah,
something very, very bold and adventurous starting tomorrow morning.
yeah. Tomorrow morning, if you're my age, you remember a program called Anything Goes, which was with Angus McAnally back in
Yeah,
early 80s. Okay, so I'm taking a little twist on that. And the show is going to be Anything Goes because look at you listen to certain major label programs like like RT and they
yeah,
talk
yeah,
about certain and that's fine and they talk to some point and then to cut it off. So tomorrow I'm starting off a show. I might get 2 listeners, I might get 2,000, I don't know. And it's just about we do simple things. We play a couple of tunes. We'll have a look at the papers. We'll have a couple of interviews. We're going to have some live studio interviews as well with people that are politically minded. We're
yeah,
going to have like, a big discussion tomorrow, which to me is just becoming a bit of a strange one at the moment, is, and I don't mean to knock anybody, it's the medical trade. Like, the medical profession at the moment
yeah.
is, it's in a mess. Is it their fault or is it the government's fault? And I'm just worried that it could be just the doctor's fault. Maybe, what's going on? You know what I mean? You
What's
can't get to
happening?
the doctor
Yeah,
anymore. You can't, you know, like
yeah,
God forbid if one of us had a heart attack tonight, what do you do? Who do you ring? You know what I mean? And
yeah, yeah.
it's
It's almost yeah, it's frightfully untouchable at the minute, isn't it? There's no major response there.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
interesting. It's
I-
interesting.
I'm I'm not going to change the world or anything like that, and it's not about that. But like yourself, the Friday night has become a time now where different things are going on. Now we will come back and do something over Christmas, like last year was we had a good time doing it. We done up the studio, put up the Christmas and the kids got involved, other people got involved. So we're going to do that as well. We'll do a big Friday night, and maybe we'll do a show together, like the two of us together, something like
I
that
think
as well.
yeah, that would be cool for sure. A simulcast.
I'll wear the
We'll have to
suit.
do that. What what was
Okay,
that?
I'll wear the Santy suit. You can be the elf.
Yeah, listen, you wear the gorilla suit and I'll wear the the caveman suit. How about that?
No
But
problem.
listen, look, there isn't room for us all on a Friday night, Kev, and Friday Night Live has become just such a huge show and stuff, and I completely understand why you would want to step off Friday Night Live because
Yeah.
there's just isn't room for both of us on a Friday Night Live. We're just too good looking and
But
too
this is
popular.
who told
You
you
know.
you were good looking, Dave?
Sorry,
Huh?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
You mean?
I'll actually miss you on a Friday night because I tell you, I used to love watching you because you would broadcast up until 10.
Yeah,
And I love that because when I'd be kind of pacing around the house here, setting up the gear for Friday Night Live,
yeah,
I would be
yeah,
watching you, and it was great. It was just great buzz because it kind of
yeah,
gets you, into the zone and stuff like that. But
yeah,
I,
yeah,
I do think what you're doing tomorrow, all jokes aside, is brilliant. It's cool. When you told me about it, it was like, yeah, anything goes. Like we were all reared on that. Like
yeah, yeah,
that's your Saturday morning. Like
yeah,
so, regardless of what it was a child's program at the time, but the adults
yeah,
all watched it too. So I think it's cool and it'll be fresh. And there's not, I don't know if anybody else that is doing something like that. Like the
And
papers, just going around the papers and having a good interview with somebody as well, like you're going to do in the morning
yeah,
and stuff like that. Will Mag be involved? Will we see her on the camera?
I hope so, but she probably, I don't know. I'd have to talk nicely to her. Now
Yeah.
I got her some cheap flowers in the garage the other day. Uh, bloody
I was
things.
thinking, do you know what she could do now? Would be the weather or something like that. She'd be very good at that.
You
I
see,
could see her.
I want to do the weather tomorrow, and now she probably has forgotten, but Emma's going to step in and do a little kitty section tomorrow as well for me.
Brilliant.
Little
Brilliant.
maybe book review or something. Or
Yeah,
I
that's
do it.
nice. Well, you were saying to me earlier on about last Christmas, which I missed, but I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to. You're going to do some stuff this Christmas where you had everybody involved in the family and friends
yeah.
and stuff.
We start.
What's the plan?
Yeah, we started off last year. We had a local school here, Marie Heslin. She has a dance academy, so they came down and done all free of charge now. You know what I mean? And came
Brilliant.
down and danced outside and Christmas music playing, and I had lights outside, and then we had the Christmas tree. Emma read out a story about Christmas at the Christmas tree, sang a couple of hymns, I think, and we had some great guests on. Like we had John Waite on, we had Brian Darcy, Brian Kennedy, and it was funny. And like we were in the studio, all the Christmassy studio, Christmas jumpers on, that type of stuff, and it was a good bit of
Yeah.
fun. And we got
Yeah.
great views for it. And I know it was a different time, and we enjoyed it. It was something different. We've done about maybe 6 shows during December.
Yeah.
But
It's
so
great.
we're,
It's great.
so
I think it's amazing what you can do, what you
yeah,
can do at home once you put the work in. Would it be fair to say? I always meant to ask you this question, by the way, but would it be fair to say that for your family, your immediate family, there, it has been a wonderful journey because I know they're all very much involved.
well, I don't. Yeah, I hope so. But they're probably always I say, lads, I'm going in to do a show, and then when you're working from home with these microphones, condensers,
Yeah.
they pick everything in the house.
Yes.
So you have to pop out, turn the telly a bit down, don't do the dishwasher. The dog is barking, guys, in the backyard, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So those things. But
Yeah.
something, it's organic. That's what it's about. You know what I mean? It's not about being super duper.
It is, yeah, and I think you can get overly into it, can't you? You can get overly into the trying to make it this pristine, professional, perfect, whatever. It is professional anyway. You do a great job, so it does, it's what comes across on the screen. I think, for example, the Odd Couple show, which I loved about both of you, was that you just come across. It's the chemistry and the fun of it. You don't need to script that. That's you either have that or you don't.
Some nights before that show, me and Mag would have had a falling out about something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And,
But fairness now, she's very well behaved on screen. She never she would never give that away. You would never know that you guys might be in a bad place. She always
she wouldn't talk to me for a week like that. And it's very happy, Dave. You know what I mean? I'm trying there to do my best, and she's not speaking to me and stuff like that. And it's great. You can have the remote control then as well, and she just leaves me alone.
Yeah, it's bliss. Really is bliss. I have to say, your relationship, most of us will only ever experience just a small slice of what that is. You're a credit to every married couple in Ireland, I have to say.
But do you want to hear a good one?
Yeah, go on. What was that, Kev?
We're not married.
Are you not?
No, we're living in sin, Dave.
Oh my God, that makes you even more interesting. That makes you even more interesting. Now I'm totally intrigued. I'm totally intrigued. And rightly so. Why would you? You don't need to be. You're just you're 100% chemistry, the two of you. But I have to say, I would love to see her involved in Anything Goes in the morning. So if you can get a blue screen or a green screen, maybe she could do the weather or something. I think that would be fantastic.
We will get her to do something like it. She keeps looking at me, gives me these dirty looks, and saying, "What do you want me to do now?" Like, she's very good. This is the thing. Like, I know she's very good at doing it, so why not give it a go?
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking of
what happens, as they say.
Sort of like Evelyn Cusack. The Evelyn Cusack of Carlo. No, that's probably not a good description. No, I wouldn't go there. She'd actually be a lot better than her, in fairness. But tell me this and tell me the more. Moving on swiftly before Mag actually gets in the car and drives to Limerick, because she does have my ear code, so be very careful how much I say.
She's no diesel.
Good, thank God. Keep that car, keep it that way for the time being. But listen, what is the plan for 2022 then? Do you see like KMFL, like all of these things, like what I'm doing here, it has to evolve anyway. It either evolves or you do something else. Do you think
I think we will, because we set up another little thing. Hadn't mentioned, we set up KMFL Productions now as well, which is like an agency, which is like a kind of an artist promotion scenario, venue supporting. It's getting gigs, recording artists, with various packages involved there as well. So it's a way of trying to create a bit of revenue, and also because we know so many guys now, why not try and develop it as a kind of a unit? And so for example, you might come in at the lower level just to get you work. Not saying that you need me to, and it's not about that. I've no interest in charging commissions. We just charging a flat rate fee to an artist to come on. We look after them on then they can get photo shoots done. All the structures, like the table, is going to be all uniform as such. You know what I mean? That we need a singer-songwriter in Limerick. Okay, we ring Dave. Dave is not available. We ring Mick across the road. So everyone will have an artist buddy as well, that if they can't cover a gig because they're doing one of their own gigs, their buddy can come in. And I think venues now are so different. I think venues need to know who's coming to them, who's going to entertain them, because I think now venues are in a situation where it's a one-shot process. If someone they don't feel safe, they don't like the entertainment, or whatever, they're not going to come back.
Yes, They have to get it right, don't they? They have to get it right from the get-go.
Got to get it right from the get-go, and I think that's going to help what we're going to try and do. And we've quite a good number of artists signed already, and a good number of people interested. So it's not major, but it will work. It's a simple idea, and the artists will know what's going on every month. They'll all get updated every month of what's happening, and we'll take it from there. So we kind of started off the idea just a couple of weeks ago, actually, and at the moment I'm just pooling the ideas together, and probably spend most of November getting together. And it probably realistically, and some of the artists agree with me as well, it'll probably be January or February before we're going to really hit the road running, so to speak.
Yeah, you want to get the database, you want to get the collection of artists together first. But I'm delighted to hear that you have a lot of artists now on board. Because I saw it 2 weeks back.
Yeah.
And when I saw it, I thought, this is good. This is a good idea. It's another way of using the brand, because there's so many people now that listen to you and watch you, like our musicians.
Yeah.
Will it be, because sometimes your genre would be, there's a big country influence, isn't there, with KMFL? But you play everything as well. You do play everything.
You play everything, yeah. And we do have conversations about this, because there's this huge market there for the older generation and the younger generation. Fundamentally, the average 70-year-old person likes Irish country music. They like going to the country music dance.
Of course they do, yeah.
They'll go on a Wednesday, they'll go on a Friday. They'll go across seas once a year to Spain, and they'll enjoy the event. And in fairness to country music, it has been a great support for a lot of them. But there's a lot of stuff missing there, you know what I mean? Like, now because the gigs are held back, there's nowhere for them to buy the CDs.
Yeah.
And this is why the independent artists are so important now as well. Like, they're getting the opportunity to get their stuff out there. And we have to be realistic now, Dave, at this point. And everything has changed in the entertainment business. Everything has changed. And I'm even gigging, a few gigs I've done since in the last couple of weeks have been completely different. But I enjoy them. They're different. I'm home earlier. I'm not using all the gear that I had to do. I'm in a pub. I'm playing a song by Seamus Fitzsimmons, or I'm playing a Mike Denver song, or I'm playing Regina McDermott song. And these people are all linked. There's a big chain of people there that's linked in together,
Yeah.
And there's a poem. I can't think of the name of the poem. I remember Father Brian Darcy. It's about there's a time for everything in life, time for sadness, happiness, laughter, crying, and like now there's a time for the different artists. It's not about U2 now anymore, selling millions of records and stuff like that, and which is great. Fair play to U2, like, you know what I mean. And
I know what you mean, though. There is a shift. You're right. There's a shift in the whole.
We're here doing this tonight, and it's great. And we could have this chat on the phone, but why not talk to? And if anything, if even one person gets some little thing from what we're going on about, that's great. And we don't really even know about it. They don't have to give a like or a comment. They don't have to do anything really. Just go on and be okay. That's really all it's about. Like, you know.
Yeah, true. Yeah, there is. It's like Jimmy said earlier on about the global reset or the economic reset, but there is a reset. Never musically, there is a reset, and I think you're right. This is going to be very much part of the industry going forward. It's not going to go away. I don't think that lives and streams and what we're doing now is going to go away. I was a bit worried about that for a while, but I don't think it is. It's going to evolve, obviously, and whatever, but it's not going to go away. You know, but
different, and I think it's like ourselves. We've had high numbers, and it's dropped down, it's come back up again, and whatever. And you're moving through this spectrum of stuff, you know. But I think we'll have our opportunity now very soon to kind of do something different. And it's very hard to give out or give out and or change or what you're doing or give a different vibe or whatever. But look at. I know I get no money for doing this, but I enjoy doing it. You know what I mean? And I get great support. I mean, I have a man here in Carlow gives us great support. I have Owen Reddy there gives us great support. Bramley's. These are local businesses here in Carlow, and they're giving me all the Indie Show trophies. So we get all that stuff, and you know, I'll be heading down to Cork now next week to hope to get down. You know, see Garrett O'Callaghan. He's the patron of KMFL, and
brilliant.
You know,
brilliant.
He was on with us there about 6 months ago.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, great. And he's your patron now.
He's our patron, yeah, and we have a lovely, you know, glass trophy to give to him with his name on it, and wonderful. It's just Garrett is going through a rough time with his health, and you know, and it's a sad week for Garrett now because you know he's looking at fellow DJs like Simon Young, sadly, who passed away. They will be all the same. The Jerry Ryans,
Yeah, it was very sad actually to hear about Simon Young during the week. I have to say, I'm a younger generation, but we grew up listening to him and Ian Dempsey on 2FM at the time, and it's a huge blow. If that's I'd be very much into that era of stuff. They were great DJs, like they really were fantastic DJs, and still are. Ian Dempsey, of course, is still at the top of his game, and but he's a big loss. But I'm delighted that Garrett is involved with you that way because he's a great person as well.
Yeah,
absolutely. But listen, I will probably see you at some point because I know you're planning this.
Yeah, I've been trying to get down for the Fridays and different things have happened and whatever. And
but we'll make it happen at some stage, for sure. But listen, meantime, in the morning, what time is anything goes on at?
I get out of bed about 5 to 11, and the show will go live about 11 o'clock.
Is that because Mag will be downstairs with all the cables plugged in and your cup of coffee sitting on the desk?
Could go live from the bed in the morning, like do with John Lennon.
I think you should. Now I have it. Forget the weather, okay? Forget the weather. Do you remember Paula Yates used to interview people on the bed? So there's Mags in the morning, okay? You jump out and run downstairs and do your thing, but just leave a little webcam upstairs and get it hooked up, and then Mag needn't even get up, and you can just have the guest just send him upstairs and just say, Mag will interview you upstairs, and when you're finished, then just come down and put on your coat and you have a cup of coffee and off you go. What do you think?
She's doing that at the moment, Mike.
Oh, it was always going to happen because she's not obviously in the interview tonight. So it's nice to be able to talk for her and let everybody know all about her. It's really important. Yeah. So, but she is, of course, sending numerous messages there to me, which I can't wait to read later on. But I wish you all the best. All jokes aside, Kev, I do wish you all the best. I think it's a brilliant idea. I think Saturday morning, I think morning time is it's something totally different. You'll be approaching it even differently in the morning. It'll be probably strange for you because we're used to kind of, the evening time when things are settling down, as you said, turning off the appliances, shut down everything and start doing it. So I'm looking forward to seeing it in the morning, and it's every Saturday, isn't it? It's going to be
off in the morning and hope people can get involved in it. But it's very interactive, and I know tomorrow morning mightn't be that many listeners. So I have a kind of a strange way I do these. I could go on now and put loads of stuff on Facebook about it and could do this, that. I honestly believe if something that you're going to do is going to be worth doing, it's going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
So, and it's kind of like you doing what you do, and you deserve credit for what you do as well. And
but I think we can get overly wrapped up in the numbers. I know I did for a while there, and I remember talking to you on the phone one night, and you said to me, "Look, just just do it, just enjoy it. And I do now. I was getting a bit wrapped up in, how many people, the numbers are down. That's what difference does that make? If there's still a couple of hundred people watching, well, that's enough people. I mean, that's a lot of people. Regardless if it's thousands or hundreds, it does, and you kind of have to tell yourself that, don't you?
Great. Like, I mean, we done a real simple karaoke thing in the garden here one day, myself and a friend of mine, and we got something like, I think it was 12,000 views. Then we had a country band play a couple of tunes, and we got 25,000 views. And Brilliant. You're wondering, how do these things happen? It's just do with timing, but no matter how much, as long as you just keep doing what you're doing, if you're enjoying it, and there's a few people tuned in, sure hell, like, it's like going to someone's house on a Friday.
It is, it is. In essence, it is. And I think in the morning it's going to be interesting to see. Now, I'm looking forward to seeing what you're going to be like as morning people. That's the first thing I'm interested to see. I'm expecting you to be like spruced and ready and looking the part in the morning.
Oh, we'll be good. We'll be good.
You will, of course. I know you will.
I think you're frozen, Dave. Have you?
No, I think you have. I don't know. One of us has. Maybe. Am I back? Can you see me? Yeah. Are we okay? We get those little, you know yourself, these little internet lags, they happen all the time. But I wish you all the best. I'm looking forward to it in the morning, 11 a.m. Anything goes, KMFL. So get yourself an early night, Kev. Get ready for the morning. I can't wait.
I'm going in there to watch the last bit of Coronation Street.
Wonderful. And get some tips. Okay.
Thanks a bit. All the best. Thank you.
So, excuse me. Very warm in here, and the heat, actually, I've got a heater on here, and it's giving me a bit of a tickle in the throat. But that was Kevin Byrne from KMFL, starting Anything Goes in the morning. I'm really looking forward to it. It's a whole new format from his usual gig, which is usually on a Tuesday night, which is the indie show. You can still see that the finals of the indie show are coming up, I think, in the next week and the week after. Check it out if you haven't seen it before. KMFL Radio. Just go to the page on Facebook and check out the indie show and all the other shows that they do. But Anything Goes is starting in the morning at 11 a.m. and it's going to be great crack. And I know that the way they do things, they don't script it, they just go for it. They're just naturals, Kevin Maggs. So it's going to be wonderful. Check it out. So anyway, thank you very much to Kevin there for that. I'm going to keep going. I want to play another bit of music if I can. This is a friend of mine. I'm just wanted to get some music plugs in for various different friends of ours that have come on the show. This is a friend of mine called Davy Long from Kilkenny, not too far away from where Kevin is there in Carlow. And this is called Flesh and Blood. I'm going to give this a spin tonight. His latest single. Wonderful song.
Just like you, I keep waking, not sleeping, under a pale winter moon, mind racing into the blue. We are all flesh and blood, space and time. Only try to stay alive. I live in the flood, a piece of driftwood, flesh and blood. Nobody knows what the spirit holds. Lightning through the streets, deluge breaking over the level. We're all flesh and blood, space and time. Only try to stay alive. I live in the flood, a piece of driftwood, flesh and blood. I fell upon the grass, a ghost from the past. Even the darkest night will pass. Even the darkest night piece of real blood, flesh and blood. I keep waking, not sleeping, under a pale winter moon, like racing into the blue. I keep waking, not sleeping, under a pale winter moon, like racing into the blue.
The wonderful Davy Long from Kilkenny, who was recently shortlisted. I think he entered the Irish Music Month competition that was on across all the radio stations across Ireland. And that single was the one that he entered, which is Flesh and Blood, his latest single. I love it. I absolutely love it. And there's a lot more to come. The album is out, I think, as well, as far as I know. And we had Davy on the show here about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and we had a wonderful interview, lovely, free-flowing, long chat, and he just sat there in his room at the piano, and we had a lovely chat. So go check that out, Flesh and Blood by Davy Long. My last guest tonight is, as always, we go to Poetry Corner, which is an idea that we came up with a long time ago, and as you know, my friend Catrice Greer, based in the US, who has been on the show, was the first ever spoken word / poet / narrator / many things. In the whole world of spoken word, I suppose she was the first person that I had met that was involved in that field, and I knew nothing about it at the time. And then we got chatting, and the more we chatted, I asked her, did she know people in the world of poetry and different performance and stuff, and she did. So she decided to do some curation for me, and man, did she curate. She got some wonderful guests for us during last season and this season. And tonight, I am proud to have Siobhan Potter on the show, who is a Clare lady, but nonetheless ventured over the border into Limerick. Like myself here, I'm from outside the area too, and we'll have that in common, I'm sure. But without further ado, anyway, we shall move on and introduce you. So Siobhan is waiting in patiently for me now. How are you? How are you keeping, Siobhan?
How are you?
It's great to have you on Friday Night Live. Great to have you on Friday Night Live. Thank you for joining us.
And thank you for having me, and thanks to Catrice for inviting me.
She's a wonderful person, great contact, and since she came on board with me here on the show, we've had such a variety of guests from the world of poetry and spoken word. Would you class yourself as spoken word or poetry, or is there a difference? Could you fall into either category?
There is a difference. Spoken word is not my area. It's quite a specific. Quite a specific form. I would consider myself more oral poetry. That's where the verbal art comes in. It's a slightly different thing. Falls back on an older tradition. A different intention, I suppose.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, they would both focus more on it being spoken rather than written or read.
Right. Okay.
So for the page, there's a difference. There's a difference in poetry. Poetry that's to be spoken and said and heard than looked at. There's a certain aesthetic when it's on a page. So there's
that's true. I suppose. Yeah, make a lot of sense because it's almost performed, isn't it? When it's spoken word, there has to be a performance, doesn't there? As opposed to the opposite.
So to do it for different. I mean, I've done pieces for the page, and that's so that they work in both forms. Means you can have two different pieces of poetry, really.
Yeah, could work either way.
Yeah.
You your as I'm reading as well, just that your bio, which I love, but your practice centered in relationship, explores the capacity of oral. Now I love this part: oral epic poetic form to midwife experience. Now I'm intrigued by that sentence because A, I'm trying to get interested and find out what's going on there, and B, I'm thinking, okay, I love the whole oral epic poetic form. What is oral epic poetic form?
Oral epic, it's the oldest form of poetry. we all come from an oral tradition before there was writing, before
Yeah.
anyone knew how to write.
And
But the
would you
story
say
passed on.
yeah, passed on? That's it. That's what I meant to ask you. Is it kind of where back, as you said, way back, where people would have story told poetry or just story told, and then of course the story goes from village to village and around and becomes
Yeah,
synonymous around the country or wherever,
yeah.
and of course across borders as well.
Yeah, and the function was to it was like a story medicine, or to remember, or to
Yeah,
learn from. So it's to to learn, and remember things that had happened, so that they happen again or don't happen again. A lot of
yeah,
it, fairy tales and myths, rely on symbolism. So there's like psychological medicine in them as well, for
yes,
learning and growing up and living. How
yeah,
do you live based
yeah,
on the people who came before us?
yeah. That's it. Yeah, there's kind of a history lesson in it, isn't there? As such, the passing on of stuff, and I mean,
Yeah.
often you could sometimes argue or say that, like, one of the biggest books we know, the Bible, is kind of a way of passing on an oral, isn't it? An oral lesson that did actually come from people of that time, regardless of what your beliefs are, or if you believe that story as that story, it was told and did get passed on. So it's quite interesting. And then, of course, this I wanted to ask you about as well. So the oral epic poetic form to midwife experience.
Mm. So that bit is that the what's been spoken isn't mine. Um, it's been coming through me, and it's about the experience of the person listening in
Yeah,
relationship with me. If it's me that's doing it or whoever's doing it, so it's about this third thing that happens between.
yeah,
So that your experience then is your experience of it, and I'm not dictating what it is you take from this. That this has
okay,
been given to me, I pass it on, and that you have your own taking from it, your own
yeah,
feel, whatever that is. And it might be irritation, or anger, or it might be something very soothing.
yeah.
But that
It's
you're
it's
allowed to
true.
have that. Mm.
Yeah, it's true. I can relate to that because I know from writing songs and creating music and stuff, which I do myself, that you get many different reactions, and it's quite interesting sometimes the way some people come away elated and over the moon with having heard your piece of music, and other people can be irritated or can go, oh, there's just something there I just didn't, I just doesn't sit well. I don't know what, it's amazing, isn't it? But all you're doing is putting it out there.
And mediating that, and in many ways facilitating someone to have an irritated experience, which is just as valid as feeling happy or
Yeah.
feeling contented. That to have that, and that it's all right
As
to
long
be
as some,
irritated.
yeah, that's
Can
yeah,
you bear it? And
yeah,
as the musician or as the poet, can you be with someone who's irritated,
yeah, yeah.
and
True,
be
true.
there with that. Yeah.
And you're published in oral and print form, both.
Yes.
How did you? Well, I suppose the big question is, at what point? How did you get into poetry? Were you always dabbling in it?
Good God, no. I was scribbling all over the place. I mean, I'm an artist. I went to art college in Limerick in the 80s, and then about 10 years ago in Galway, I was living in Galway, and I went back and I did a degree in painting and did no painting, but I was drawing, and drawing and
Okay.
writing are quite similar.
Yeah.
It's mark making and documenting. And I
Yes.
wrote on drawings, and I wrote on the wall, and I wrote on notebooks, and there was stuff coming all of the time. And then I would find myself hanging out with writers and going to open mics, but
Yeah.
not writing, but
Okay.
listening to people writing and thinking, why am I here? Why am I not with the painters? And then I started writing, and I
Okay.
realized that there was something happening, and it started to come. And
Yeah.
I understood then that it's like using a different pencil. So it's the
So
same thing that I'm working on, that I'm putting out
it's
there.
another way.
It's just a different medium.
It's a different
Yeah.
way. Do
So it could
you
be
obviously?
photography, it could be poetry, it could be painting,
Yeah.
and to have the trust, to
Yeah.
put down one thing and pick up another medium, and do that.
Yeah. Where could I get my hands on the published printed poetry?
Printed poetry. If you Google me, you'll find some stuff online. There's some stuff in a psychotherapy journal. You'd have to buy that. Oral stuff, I can put in links. That's online. The
Yeah,
Poetica
yeah.
archive has
I'll do all
archives.
that. I'll do all that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about that next. No, I was just wondering if there was printed poetry in the shops around the country or anything like that that you could. Me being in Limerick, just like yourself, I might be able to go in and find stuff somewhere in town.
No, I have tended more towards the oral form, and
Yeah,
so that means that it's mostly online at the moment.
brilliant. So that brings us to Poetica, which
Poetica.
that I'm assuming is an online. It is an online kind of an oral platform, isn't it?
Yeah, Poetica is a world archive for oral poetry, and they contacted me after I had a couple of pieces published in the Banyan Review.
Okay.
And yeah, he got in touch with me and asked me. So I'm the first living Irish poet to have work up there.
Brilliant.
Yeah, very exciting. For a new writer, it was
Brilliant.
very exciting.
Yeah,
And
that's
for my
very
ego, it was, oh, sure, I was telling everyone. I was plastered all over Facebook that,
well, and rightly so.
Yeah,
And rightly so. Why wouldn't you? Yeah, that's an amazing achievement. It is an amazing achievement.
It was nice, yeah. And he was easy to work with, and it's nice to be seen and heard and valued.
Yeah. Well, we spoke about validation earlier on with the great Jimmy Smith, who was on there first, and there's a big thing in Ireland anyway. I'm sure. Catrice could tell us if it was the same in the States, but we are very hard on ourselves in the arts worlds in general, and also the people that come to see us. It's quite difficult to be validated, isn't it? It's not the easiest place in the world. We kind of tend to shoot ourselves in the foot a lot of the time that way. We find it hard to believe in ourselves but I think that's changing, and that reset is happening. But I'm delighted that was a definite boost for you getting involved there. Not this. I wanted to ask as well. Not the time to be silent. You're curating, not the time to be silent. Where did the idea come from the
idea came from lockdown. I mean, I had to cocoon. I have a health thing. So March 2020, I realized that things were going to have to change. So that me going to public venues was not going to be happening. I didn't think it was going to last this long. So I liked going to open mics. I liked the contact. I liked going and reading work, and it's really good to be around people to develop work, particularly new work, to read it and to hear it and have it heard, and that was removed immediately. So I did try to get other people to set something up, and I realized if I wanted to do it, that I would need to do it myself.
Do it yourself.
So I set it up. Thought it was going to be a weekly event, poetry, an invited reader, and an open mic and an online community. And it was really to give people a space, and it was open. It's an international group. It turned out to be, so we, people from all over the place. Yeah,
brilliant.
Every Thursday evening, and it was a nice regular space. We started on time, we finished on time, because it was a very uncertain time. So we gave that to people, that this is what happens. This is where we are. We'll be here every Thursday. And it was so it's still going on. The events have stopped, and we're at the moment documenting the work of the year in a book.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so the Arts Council are on board with that. The Arts Office in Limerick are on board funding that. So that's what's happening with that project at the moment.
That's super. It's nice to get the aid, isn't it? It's nice to get the funding. That's the hard part.
Well, the funding was important because people came for a year and they read, and nobody got paid, because it's so hard to pay artists, and it's so hard to pay writers. So this publication, everyone's getting paid for their work, and they get their work back, because oftentimes work can get reused, or sometimes in publishing, the press will keep the work to use it again. So people give us their work, we publish it, we pay them for it, we pay the cover artists, the editors. We have Kieran O'Driscoll and Taeve Neese are our editors. They're getting paid. Everyone's getting paid.
And rightly so. Rightly so. Yeah, rightly so. That's the achievement in itself, isn't it? Because I know, well, during lockdown and pandemic, this is what I ended up doing. And like my last guest, Kevin, who was on there, ended up doing his thing, broadcasting from his living room himself and his partner Mag. We've all found ourselves in this situation somehow or another, most of us, and it's tough. It's like we certainly do it because we love it. That's why I'm doing this. There's no other reason. But to get some assistance is wonderful, and to be able to turn around to the contributors and say, okay, guys, I can pay you something now for being so kind as to come on and help and contribute. So I'm delighted for you that panned out. What is the plan for Christmas? Are you going to go out to any open mics over Christmas? Or are you still cautiously sitting tight for another little while?
I haven't. I'm working on. I'm actually kind of like deep in incubating a piece of work at the moment. So yeah, I'm really not out there that much. I'm working a lot by myself at home. I social media, I'm staying away from it. Just I have something kind of in the pot, and it's taking quite a bit of.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Well,
and I love it because it's the first year in a while where I can do this seasonally. I mean, often, September means that everything starts. I've never understood that we're supposed to be going to sleep in September, heading towards hibernation. So this year I'm very much pulling back and going with the seasons. So this piece will start to come out then in the public spaces in spring.
Brilliant.
So it's really nice.
Can you give us any inclination or hint or little miniature scoop as to what it's going to be?
It's going to be more performative than I think, more on the performative side than the just actually speaking side. I'm working. I've been the arts office here in Limerick have funded a mentoring relationship with a German performance artist for me. So I'm working with Kat Gerard of Tailspin at the moment. And it's not my area, it's not my field, so it's all very new. I don't know what it looks like yet.
Brilliant.
I haven't gone in with anything. I'm going into this space to see what happens in there. So it's a bit like you don't know what kind of a baby you're getting, but you know
it's going to be good though. You know it's going to be fun. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. So visually, will we all be able to access this visually in the springtime-ish?
Yes. The museum here in Limerick have committed to showcasing it in whatever form. So it will be in digital form as well, on depending on COVID. But also I do want to take it into the physical space because something very important happens with people. People
it does.
There.
The audience and actual gathering.
The internet is brilliant and it's a great second, but there's something very important that happens, and if this work is to be of use to people, then it's to bring it to people. So the museum in Limerick are going to host something in whatever form it comes.
That's brilliant.
Very exciting. Yeah.
Brilliant. I'm delighted for you. It's great to see somebody getting the support and getting the aid that's needed. It is needed to bring these things to the public. Now, you told me during sound check that you were going to read something for us.
I can do that.
Nice. That is, of course, is already published, but to me it's brand new, which I can't wait because I'm a newbie to this world. I suppose I've about 12 weeks experience in the world of poetry and spoken word now, thanks to Catrice and all of you guys, all the guests. So I'm almost getting there to being semi-seasoned as a fan of poetry. What is the piece you're going to do for us this evening, Siobhan?
Okay, so this there's one kind of pandemic piece, and that is in the UCD archive. It went through pandemic, and it's been archived in the UCD archive. And another piece is from the Blue Nib, so it's published on the Blue Nib and the ink pods. I do want to say, COVID brought myself and Catrice together. I didn't know Catrice before COVID, so it's brought us all online, and we all have access to each other. And I mean, I've met you now, but there's people all over the world that I've met. It's been one of the upsides of lockdowns and stuff like that, has been this, making sure that we connect in other ways. It's great.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it,
Big
yeah.
shout out to Catrice for having me here.
Yeah, no, fair play. It is. Listen, it's a wonderful world out there if it's used correctly and used positively. That's the way. I certainly am glad for all the people that I've met since the beginnings of this show in itself. It's amazing. It's amazing, and I look forward to meeting you in person, Sean, someday. Hopefully, we're not too
Great.
far away from each other.
Not
We
too
will
far away.
surely, and
Sure. We'll have the
when the-
tea somewhere.
well, we'll have the tea, that's for sure. And when your new venture, your new piece of work gets to the museum as well, I'll certainly go in and I'm looking forward to that too. We'll keep in touch. I'd like to go in and
Great.
see it. So without further ado, I'm going to give you the mic now, and I'm going to kick back and just relax and have a listen. So whenever you're ready, Siobhan Potter, based by the way in Limerick City from County Clare, very important. Take it away.
Thank you. Form provides refuge. Burrow deep for feral words. There fall asunder. I inhabit mucus and pus, so that when I laugh, I mean it. I inhabit the wretchedness of birth in order to love the parasite until it is self-supporting. I inhabit memory to not forget, and to not do it again. I inhabit hate and mistrust so that you can experience it. I inhabit lust and eat from it. I inhabit love for you to have your heart broken and thrive. I inhabit exactitude because knives need to be kept sharp. I inhabit sloth, and the mammal in me rests. I inhabit animus. That is the primary relationship. I inhabit light completely, so that all that is seen is its darkness, depending on your perspective. So move. I inhabit shame when I tire of my right size. I inhabit silence to hear myself. I inhabit God. I inhabit wolf and loneness. It's as lonely as herdness. I method right, inhabiting a poem till it's had its way, then move on. I move on. I inhabit words until I know what they are saying and can hear what you are not saying. I drink happiness by the neck until drunk, then drink more. I sneak out when it's sleeping. I can come back if I leave. I'll inhabit shit for you when you won't. I will digest it and give it back in edible form. I inhabit good enough. I inhabit mother. Slowly lockdown prepared them, like lobsters. Eat meat and give thanks. Time is coming when the potato will fail again, and nobody is going to come for us. When we accept that, we will be free. Lentils, chickpeas, and plant-based proteins are not indigenous. We will eat meat like our famine forefathers, and while it is not quite time to decide which of our children or neighbours to eat first, we might throw an eye over this while we have access to clear heads. Although everything dies, some will live as seed carriers, elect to thrive like the first forms that crawled out of water become mud. Rise from this mud, changed, understanding there is no right to life. Thriving requires faith. Cast aside it waits. Ecological is to be part of something too big to comprehend and not need to. Fun fact, the virus doesn't care who is vegan or spiritual or a survivor. Soon we will be up on all 10 toes, running in bodies designed to run, driven like the dinosaurs to die in our current iteration. Talking about surviving is not a tool. Rest easy, the planet will not die. It is changing to rid itself of us. Trying to arrest the death of a species misses the point. Death is as much part of life as life itself, and it's almost here. In time, there will be nothing left to burn but the tires, and burn them we will. learn how to hunt, eat meat, eat it raw, enjoy the lentils. No one is coming to help us, and nothing is wrong. It's me.
Wow. Siobhan, that's probably that is the most intense piece of spoken poetry that I have ever heard so far on Friday Night Live. There's a massive message in there. A massive message in there. I'm going to actually watch this back on replay a few times now, because I've listened to that a few times. It's amazing.
Okay.
What drives you to sit down and write wonderful things like this?
Oh my God! Sometimes that stuff just drops. It just drops out of.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll hear something, or I'll smell something, and it comes.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Many people say
Sometimes
that.
it has to be wrestled with, but sometimes it just will drop
Yeah.
down. Yeah.
The body of work. Yeah. Many people say that, actually. Many people say that in the music world that I come from, or whatever, will often say, and I'll ask them, how did you write like that amazing song or that piece or whatever? And it does often sort of come down and flow through you first. Yes, you'll wrestle a little bit and you'll edit a little bit, but that's a wonderful what is the name of that piece?
Which one? The eat meat one?
Both pieces.
Okay, so I've given it eat meat because it needed a title. Yeah. The other one doesn't really have a title because it's part of a bigger body of work.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
There are no titles. It's just one
Parts.
piece.
Yeah.
And often it's, I work really well with prompts. So if I'm given a prompt, because I like to react. I'm Irish and I'm the queen of reacting. And so I work well with prompts where there's something comes straight away and I have like a little hook.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Often, I mean, that may not end up being where it's being part of it, but it's a good start. So so I like prompts.
Yeah. Brilliant. I'm delighted to have met you and discovered you in Limerick, not from Limerick, but in Limerick, because I myself, I'm a Kildare man who has strayed all the way down here, and here I am now. But it's great to have had yourself. You're the second guest that has come on the show that's in the same county as me, but the first, I will say, from Poetry Corner. It's wonderful to meet people both near and far away. It's great. I never know who I'm going to meet from week to week until I get the golden email from Catrice every week telling me about you. But this has certainly been very interesting and great fun, and also deep, and I'm going to watch it back and I'm going to listen again as I do a couple of times and really get well into it. But thank you so much, Siobhan Potter, for joining me, and thank you for waiting up, because obviously usually we would have guests from the States or whatever that are behind us in time, so it's not so late. So you've really championed the clocks to stay up with me until the end.
I'm usually in bed at 9:30, so this is tomorrow.
Fair play to you. Well, listen, all I can say is you're a star, and I love it. I'm going to explore more, and hopefully, we'll meet up at the museum or something, or before that. Who knows? Over the coming months, we're not too far away from each other and stuff.
And just to say, if anyone wants to read more bits, excuse me, if you Google me, you'll find me in Google. Siobhan Potter Poetry.
Where is the best place to go find you to listen to you reading? What would be the best?
A lot of my stuff is on. A lot of the audio stuff is up online. So if
it's
you
up
Google,
online. So just Google you and you'll find it that way.
Whatever journals have published it in audio or up there. Poetica is up there as well.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I'm on Facebook and I'm on Twitter as well. If you Google, you'll find me on there as well. I am taking a little bit of a sabbatical, but I am in and out, but not a lot.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, I mean, the social media is a complete distraction from when you're trying to do something. I know that myself. It is a distraction.
It's great and it's useful, but I mean, there are times to.
It is tiring. It is. I find from week to week now, I'm almost on it all the time because I'm preparing for next week as of tomorrow morning. That's how busy the show here has become. But That's the part. That's the joys of it, I suppose. But I do try to take a break and stop at some point because it's quite consuming overall. But yeah, Voetica would be one link anyway. Voetica that people could certainly
Yeah,
go
do you
and
want
find.
me
But
to put some links in the chat, or will I send them to you?
we can put up links on the page tomorrow. I'll put up something to Voetica on Friday Night
Okay.
Live, on Friday Night Live show page, and
Yeah.
people will find you. Don't worry about that, Siobhan. They will go find you. That's for sure.
And as long as they don't land up at the door, it'll be great.
Yeah, they won't. That's all right. No, there'll be no air codes given out here. Don't worry. It's a rule we have on Friday Night Live. No air codes.
No worries.
Listen, thank you so much.
Thank
Really
you for
appreciate it.
having
Really appreciate it. Have a lovely evening and
Good
take
night
care of
and God
yourself.
bless.
I look forward to hearing the work in spring, and I hope you have a wonderful creative journey over the next couple of weeks there.
Yeah,
I look
thanks,
forward to
Dave.
it. Thanks a million.
David, thanks,
Good night.
thanks, Patrice. God bless.
Bye. So that's it, guys. That's episode 29 done and dusted, and diverse as always. I do love the Poetry Corner segment because it just really does diversify everything. But tonight was really cool because, of course, moving from Jimmy Smith, who was on first as a session guitar player and a musician, and then moving into meeting Kevin Byrne and Carlo, who was a fellow online sort of DJ, if you like, or entertainer like myself now, with his own show with KMFL. So check out KMFL radio on Facebook, and you'll see all their shows. But in the morning, he's doing a new show called Anything Goes at 11 a.m. Tune in, please. I'd like to see a lot of people tuned in there, and I'd like to get a few people over there from here to listen to him in the morning. So look, lads, if you're lying back in the morning, it's a Saturday morning, and you have nothing to do but just go on the laptop or the phone, just type in KMFL radio, and yeah, you'll see Kev will be going live there at 11 a.m. It's his first show. Anything Goes on a Saturday morning. It's going to be good. It always is. And I wish them all the best. And of course, then massive thanks to Siobhan Potter, who finished up tonight on Poetry Corner, here based in Limerick, like myself. It was wonderful to have her, and a complete surprise for me as well to meet somebody on Poetry Corner every week. I learn something new every week. About not just about poetry, but about the whole world around it. I'm going to leave you tonight with good friends of mine who sent me their brand new single today, which I'm going to play for you as well soon. But this is Nata and Evgeny from Poznan in Poland, who are possibly one of my favorite guests for sure that we've had on Friday Night Live. But this is their last single called Shine. I'm going to leave you with this tonight. Thanks very much for tuning in, guys. I'm Dave Morrissey. This is Friday Night Live. Good night. God bless. Mind yourselves. See you all next week.
Greatly, highly, vastly, brightly, brightly, nobly, greatly, I tell to you, highly and face to face, vastly, your destination, brightly, take a breath. Every story shows me glory, don't be a copy. And my mother can be funny, so you can tell me. And the story, my big story, in any case, oh yeah, and me. Not as bad and possibly, cause sometimes I'm dreaming. And no, I think you hear me. Make a story, don't be worried about doing the right things. Like this house. Shine. sideways, shiny, lovely. Every story shows me glory down to a carpet, and anybody can be honest if you can tell me. And the story might be stormy in any case for you and me. And this might be also maybe sometimes in dreaming. Nothing, I think you hear me. Make a story and be worried about doing the right things. Every story shows me glory down to a carpet. Anybody can be funny, so you can tell me. And the story might be stormy in any case for you and me. But this may be possible even sometimes in dreaming. I think you hear me. Make a story, don't be worried about doing right things. Like the stars
Shine by Nana and Evgeny from Poznan in Poland. Their last single. There's a brand new single coming out which I got in my mailbox today. I've heard it. It's really, really good. And check it out. It's going to be on the radio pretty soon. And it's cracking. Those guys are going somewhere. You're going to see them in the UK and possibly Ireland. I think over next summer. I can see them touring. I can see them getting very, very big and very, very popular. What a wonderful act. Guys, I'll see you all next week on Friday Night Live for episode 30. And believe you me, there are some really, really great guests lined up for next week. It's going to be very interesting. If you like your Irish music for a start, it's going to be wonderful. And also, we're going stateside to meet a very, very cool band, a full band in the United States. So there's some really cool stuff coming up. So stay tuned, and I will see you all next week at the usual time of 10 p.m. live. God bless. Good night. From me, Dave Morrissey here. I'd like to thank all my guests, Jimmy Smith, Kevin Byrne, and Siobhan Potter for joining me tonight. Thank you so much to everybody for listening. It's your support that makes the show happen. That's what it's all about. Good night and God bless, lads. See you all next week.